I want to go through 2 points on the Maamer, the first half and the second half, but to get there you need to go through a lot of other nekudas. So I'm going to go through those nekudas very quickly because that's not the point and what I want to say. So for example, when we talk about Arab, I'm going to do it very quickly because the Maamer is split into two, I think. That's the way I understand the Maamer. Till Seif Vav and from Seif Vav and in Seif Vav there's two shlagim. And we'll get there. So here's the nekudah. Giloi, if I put up a curtain in front of me and you don't see me on the other side, that's not called Helam. When I take away the curtain, it's not called Giloi. Because I'm the Giloi on this side of the curtain and not the Giloi on the other side. I'm the Giloi here and I'm just not there. So we're just in a different place. So it's not called Giloi now, it's called Makamacher. Giloi would mean that something was in a state of Helam and it came to a state of Giloi. So for example, in Bar Seichel, if I explain in Bar Seichel, which was once too able for a Talmud to understand, and then you make it more Megushem, so you brought it down to a more grab state, and therefore Talmud can understand it. That's called Giloi, because it changed states from Helam and went down a notch. Whereas taking away the curtain is not Giloi, it's just two places. That's what the word Giloi means. Now, what's the idea of Ur? So we look at the Shemesh, and we see the Shemesh is physically a certain size, and yet the Ur of the Shemesh is outside of the Shemesh in a different place. And the Shemesh didn't have to go to the place where the light of the Shemesh is going. It is. By the Shemesh being, automatically things happen outside of the Shemesh without it doing anything or changing its state. So for example, I want to move this. If I exist, anything that exists is movable. If you exist, then you have Agdal. So if I exist and I'm movable, and this thing exists and it's movable, and I want to move it, so if I'm the Makim Zeh, and that's the Makim Macher, I can't move it without going there. So I have to have a physical hand, because this is physical. So you need a physical hand to touch a physical thing, because you have to be in the same space, called physicality. And I have to even go towards it and move it. So if you exist, you're movable. So the Shemesh, which could be in one place and yet affect a place where it's not without going there, obviously means it has a tchuna that's not an existing tchuna, because existence is movable, a tchuna is believable. It's like a atzmi, a thing that doesn't exist, the Paltiel exists ba'atzem. It's real, it exists ba'atzem, not Paltiel, and therefore there's no Bosi, and therefore it's believable, so it can break its boundaries and go where it's not, even outside of the Shemesh. So the same thing, and really this tchuna, obviously the Shemesh is not an atzmi, the Shemesh is movable, it's a tchuna the Eibishter gave the Shemesh, but the Eibishter is not in existence. He's built-in Mitzias Nimtza. He's not in existence, and therefore he only is Atzem, and therefore he's real big. He has no Agbolis, he has no Agdaris, and therefore he can do whatever he wants. But here's the problem: Ein Seif is the description. It's a hafla. You're so gavaldik, you're so bligol, you're Ein Seif. The Eibishter, if you exist Ba'atzem, you have nothing that, no tayar and no inyam which I describe you by. You say you're so gavaldik. This is never You're just our Ba'atzem. This that I'm gavaldik has nothing to do with who I am. If I exist ba'atzem and I'm ultimately true, I'll also be gavaldik. I'll also be bligvol. But that's not nishan dem b'shteiter. And that's why you can't say Atmos is Ein Seif. Atmos is mitzvah mitzvah. Atmos is built mitzvah nimtza. Memela he's also bligvol. Memela the inyan of bligvol is v'yachel that's mitzvah Atmos. But you can't describe him as bligvol. But if the Eibishter is bligvol, the Eibishter has the yachelas for Ein Seif. So just like in the Shemesh, that Ein Seif expresses itself outside of itself. So part of Taich in Ein Seif, Ba'atzem, that the Eibishter, which is Ba'atzem, of both mitzvahs, therefore is Ein Seif. Taich, that is that the Ein Seif will express itself even in Paltiel. And it'll be Ein Seif Mamish, the Paltiel, even in a place where he's not Kiviyachol, which that's the end of Gilui, the Eibishter expresses himself and is able to reach a place where he's not. And Kiviyachol. But here's the trick. The second it reaches Mitzias, it's already not Ein Seif. If the Eibishter expresses himself in Mitzias is not Ein Seif. If it's right, so come to Zay. The Eibishter is blig volet. The Eibishter can express himself blig vol. That goes with the fact he's Ein Seif Ba'atzem, which is Seif Ba'atzem is not a tayar, but right. So, for example, we talk about Ein Seif. We say Ein Seif there's Madrigas. Ein Seif there's Ad Lamata Mata. There's many Madrigas in Ein Seif of Bnei Tzimtzah. But this that Ein Seif with Paltiel and the Bnei Tzimtzah is mitzad the Eibishter with Ein Seif Ba'atzem. So this is the Eibishter expresses himself in a Mitzias and in Gilui so the Gilui and the Gilui is all mitzadin. He's even Ein Seif the Gilui. I'm not explaining myself well, but So there's a mashal to explain this a little bit. I'm just going to keep moving. As far as seichel, it's the idea of tibus is for. On the one hand, tibus is for ba'atzem. Now it expresses itself in many physical places. A lot of things are tibus is for. All function by that way. But this that the thing functions under the rules of tibus is for, right? When you grab two tables and you have tibus is for, you don't have the svara itself. Because as far as emes ba'atzem, it's also going to be a pile true in every place. But it's not two things. It's not that there's tibus for ba'atzem and there's tibus for pile. They're two separate yonim. Tibus for ba'atzem is what's in the pile of tibus for, but the pile isn't the tibus for. Same thing in the Eibush is ain't safe ba'atzem. So Mele is ain't safe pile. The ain't safe pile is not a separate inyan. It's because it's ba'atzem. Mele is even ain't safe and he exists begilai. So really, there's two existence. It's the Eibush is ain't safe ba'atzem, which is also the pile. So it's a really a din in the fact that it's a ba'atzem. So really, all there is one ain't safe. Then we reach the mashal of the symptom for example, there's something there. This is the Raisa, this is the Rabbanan. So mitzvah the Rabbanan, the Rambam says is a Shiur the Raisa. They will say everything's the Raisa. Never then mitzvah the Raisa, you also have the Rabbanan. Same thing here. Mitzvah the Eibusher, which is blig vol, so that everything's the Eibusher has everything in the pile, and Aaron say it's even the pile, Mizgala, it came in Mitzias of everything. But Das Kufa is in him. Eibazai, there isn't really anything outside of it. There isn't really two ain't types. There's only one thing, him. And that's why it's looking at symptom. It's all kol. It's all in him. Okay, I could have extended that better, but
Shmulik, you're doing great.
Yeah. This is all what Aaron Seif is. Even looking at symptom. This is the pasha I wanted Aaron Seif. Our Maamer is coming to say a chiddush over this. What's the chiddush? Ad kan. So till here we're talking about where. The whole inyan of this Eibush is bigul pile. The sadaki is bigul ba'atzem. Ain't safe is a din. The Eibush is ain't safe, which is beichelos with the dat. Once there's a timtzum, what does timtzum mean? Timtzum is a kach of the Eibush to mile on himself. So, which is also a kach ain't safe. That the Eibush is ain't safe. He also has a kach to mile on himself, and that kach is also beside the fact that he is the Eibush. Merely is also beside the fact that he's emes. So kach also bigvol. And therefore the Keich Begol is also a din in his ain't safe. He's ain't safe, and also Keich Begol. They're both equally ain't safe. They're both a din in his ain't safe. So that Keich Begol goes in his Maamer, right? So now what you have is what's the drop Maalim? That it's not that. So you don't see the Eibush, which the Eibush is Amos, and it's not to he's Begol. The opposite of that. What's left? Mucking for goal. He's not Nirgash. There's mucking for goal. For the opposite, something different, right? Gvul by definition equals Helen. There's something mugbal. And the Eibush is bligvul, then he's not there. He's obviously it's not hemshach of him because it's gvul. So Timtzum, which is mal and Eibush, leaves mucking for gvul, which is different than the Eibush. So to say that could reach us a place, the Cherzak is a stereo. Calling Yani is the ain't safe of the Eibush, that the Eibush is ain't safe ba'atzem. Mela, I'm expressing that inyan, and I'm dealing of the Eibush. For that to be in a place which is a makim where adirabeh is a makim for gvul it doesn't make any sense because if you're going to be in a makim of gvul then you're not in safe anymore. And if you remain in safe, you're not really there. Being there means that you're going to be also be'erach gvul. Beruchni is being somewhere means that you're be'inyan, be'teichen. So if iron safe, so iron's out and the fnei symptom there's already a gilui. There's a gilui iron safe. There's even madregas in iron safe. But yet, they're all a din in him, so there's only one thing, ain't safe. Eibishter. But la'akarat symptom, where the inyan is gvul, you can't have ain't safe there. Says the Maamer says no, for the same reason, just like we said l'fnei symptom, that a din in his ain't safe ba'atzem, he said he's ain't safe b'bayil. So maybe he's ain't safe even in a place where there's taka gvul. And therefore the is going to come even mugbal. There's going to be erakav. Erakav is going to be mugbal. Which means that it's be'erach, the place that it came to, it taka changed, it became gvul. Yet, this that he came there is beside the fact that he's ain't safe ba'atzem, he's everywhere, and he has no Hakdara, so he can even be there also. So therefore, b'mehusay, the Erakav is really exactly the same ain't safe as l'fnei tzimtzum. So maybe the Aaron safe came l'mata, it came, and that's where Maamer begins. Our Maamer begins telling us a chiddush, not that there's gil Aaron safe l'fnei tzimtzum. Don't tell us la'akarat tzimtzum, the is really ain't safe, even though it's mugbal, But this that it could come there, the from Mukbal, is mitzad the Ein Seif of the Eibishter, and therefore it's really Ein Seif. That's all it is. And looks Mukbal because it came through the Kachar Shimu, which is Magbal there, but B'mhosei it's still legal. And that's like the first Kaddish of the Maamer till Eis Vav. I don't know how much that explains, but anyways, Eis Vav, the Rebbe says, and you could, and I'm going to start off looking at Eis Vav b'chitzein, the Shkafar Yishayna, and you could say the Rebbe says like this. The Rebbe quotes the video of Maamer, which says that only real Gvul is in Kil and B'yam. The Rebbe quotes that the Tzemach says even Kil and Atzilus are not Gvul, and if you read Eis Vav, then Eis Zayin, then Eis Ches, comes Eis Ches, V'al Derech Zeh B'Erein Seif. Which means that we're saying a similar concept to Erein Seif exists in Kalim. So we're going to use Kalim as another place we see this concept. That's like Mashkav Rishayna, that's the way Ches continues. But in Kalim there's two shlavim. In the comparison between and Kalim, we bring two ideas about Kalim. We bring them back to Now that's what comes after two shlavim. In the way we have the Maamer, they're both in Sefav. And it's very important, I want to mention this, that in the Rebbe's Maamer it was not that way, and you'll see why it's important. I think in the Havana that's like, yeah. The first word is the first paragraph, and then there's the second paragraph. In the Rebbe's Maamer, the first paragraph was there. Then you had the whole beer about Yosef, verse Achav, that Yosef comes to Atzilos, he's Atzilos, he's enveloped. Then comes the second Kashya, and there was the other Kol Yachal, ever learned the Maamer knows, and then comes the Baal Shem Tov, and that goes to the Be'er. Meaning there's a shlab b'fnei atzmai without the question, the Rebbe leaves it and talks about Yosef, and then comes back to the question. And Taka in Samach Vav, the Rebbe brings the Rebbe Shab brings this shlab of Kalim. The first shlab doesn't ask the question, doesn't answer Kol Yachal, and that's a beer in Kalim. And in our Maamer it's a shlab b'fnei atzmai, and by the Rebbe's Maamer it was a hefsek between the two shlab. What's the first shlab? And here we have to talk about Keach HaGvul. Keach HaGvul, as I can say, it's not really Gvul. Why is it not really Gvul? Because it's the Eibishter is so emes. He also has Keach HaGvul. So it's really, it's Ein Seif. That's why Keach HaGvul, Ein Seif, just like Keach HaGvul Tibal Gvul Bar. But Keach HaGvul is Ein Seif. Now, where does Keach HaGvul come into action? Where does Keach HaGvul able to do a pile of Gvul? Only Lachat HaTzimtzum. Why? Because of an Tzimtzum, what's in Nirgash is that everything is beside the Ein Seif of the Eibishter. What's in Nirgash is the Ein Seif. Lachat HaTzimtzum, what's left is a Halim. The Eibishter is not Nirgash. The Eibishter's Bli Gvul is not Nirgash. Right? Eibishter is Emes. Emes is Bli Gvul. So long as the Eibishter is Nirgash, which Eibishter is Emes, and Emes is Bli Gvul, you don't have a locking for Gvul. Comes Tzimtzum and is Mailim. You don't see the emes of the Eibishter, and therefore you don't see the Gvul of the Eibishter, and there's a mocking for Gvul. So Keach Gvul, then the Keach Gvul of the Eibishter could go and create a Gvul B'Payel, which will be Nirgash Al Gvul, because there's a mocking for it. There's a mocking where there's a Halam, you don't see the Gvul of the Eibishter, and there's a mocking for Gvul. So Keach Gvul makes Gvul, and it says to the Beis Kedesh, right, the famous Lashon, V'Gvul Mitzvah Ben Rishon, Hein Kelim Da'atzilus. Why are we calling Kelim Mitzvah Gvul? Going into Rishon, right? Kalim start in Ak, the Kudah of Kalim starts already higher, and then there's the Ishtalshlus in the Keach HaGvul, right? Keach HaGvul creates a Gvul. In that Gvul, coming to the Payal, Mamish Gvul Mamish, in Keach HaGvul, actualizing its Keach, there's Shlavim, and the ultimate Shlav is Kalim Da'atzilus. But Til Atzilus is not Gvul Mamish, and Atzilus it's Gvul Mamish. So our Maamer is talking about Kalim Da'atzilus, which are Gvul Mamish, and therefore they're the last tools which are used to cook and create Biyah, which is Gvul Mamish. Now the problem is, we're calling Kelim Da'atzilus Salakos. What does it mean Salakos? That would mean, and all of the Madrigas and Ishtalshlus, Tel Da'atzilus, we're calling Salakos. All the Kelim, all those elements, you can't call them Kelim, but the Mitzias of these elements, we're calling them Salakos. The question only begins on Kelim, and that's where our Maamer comes in. How can you call Kelim Malakos? Earlier we don't have this question, we only have this question now. Why do we only have the question now when it comes to Atzilos? Because Keach HaGvul is Ein Seif. It's the Eibishter's Keach HaGvul. Keach HaGvul goes and does a Pu'ula and creates Gvul. If the inyan of that Gvul is, Kol Mahosai is, to be Megal, this is the Eibishter is Ein Seif, and Mela Kechi also big Gvul. Then in Yona is his makar, and that's called Vekus. Now, on the other hand, you can't say, on the other hand, the Keach Gvul is to make a Gvul. If I'm making a Gvul and I'm not movable, then that thing is separate from me, because I'm big Gvul and it's Gvul, so then it's separate, and that means tell him, because again, if I'm believable, and the thing I'm making is Gvul, then it can't fully be Margish me, because we're different type of Metzias. I can't be Nirgash there, because he's different. So it's built in, so it's built in Ikaras, it's a big Sugya and Chassidus, but bottom line is, as long as the Gvul that the Keach HaGvul is creating isn't Gvul Mamish, for example, right? The Rebbe brings a mashal of Keach HaKsiva. The Rebbe says the Keach, right? As long as the Gvul is not Gvul Mamish, it's in Yona could be the Ein Seif of the Eibishter. As long as the Gvul is not Gvul Mamish, it's still Pashat on some level. Then it could be in Yona could be this is the Eibishter made it. This is the Keach HaGvul the Eibishter Dik Zachareis da. And that's what we say in Ishtashlos. When it comes to killing the Atzilus, problem is killing itself to go and create Biyah. Biyah is real Gvul. Right? The Rebbe quotes Maamer Al Rebbe. Maamer Al Rebbe starts off with Biyah. It says Biyah is real Gvul. If you create Biyah, killing the Atzilus, which is creating Biyah. You can't have in a Davar Mugbal a Keach Multi Mugbal. So if killing the Atzilus are creating Biyah, so the Keach of killing the Atzilus is going into Biyah also has to be Mugbal. Kumte says Al Rebbe that the killing the Atzilus themselves are Mugbal because they're creating Biyah. And the question is, if the killing the Atzilus themselves are really Gvul, they're Gvul Mamish, then how could that be a Hemshach and that be Dovuk and that be called a Lakos in the Keach HaHelim of the Eibishter? Because then once the Keach HaGvul manifests itself and actually makes a Gvul, then he's not there anymore. Because if you're making a Gvul, which a Gvul in Yona is, if you're Ein Seif, even if you're a Keach HaGvul of Ein Seif, but you're Keach HaGvul of Ein Seif, so you're Ein Seif. So you're different than the thing you're making, which is Gvul. Because you're Ein Seif, it's Gvul, you're not there. So once the Keach HaGvul actually makes a Gvul, that Gvul is not going to be, somebody functioning out. If that Gvul is, once the Keach HaGvul actually makes the Gvul, and there's a real Gvul Paltiel, then that can't be called Davuk, because in Yoni is Gvul, and I'm in Yoni ain't safe. You can't be Hemshech of me. And the question is, if killing the making are going in. So the question here is, how could you call if killing are actually Mugval? How could you call them Gvul? How can you call them Malakos? So the Rebbe answers the first line of the answer that you could make Gvul and not be Gvul. That's basically the answer. You can make Gvul and not be Gvul. What's the mashal that it gives? A person which is writing Keach Ksiva. Keach Ksiva is a Keach Miyuchad of Ksiva, so it's Gvul, but it's Keach Ksiva to make believable Gvuls. I can make any letters, right? Then the Keach Ksiva goes and makes a letter b'Paltiel, which is Mugbal. So the Rebbe says that a Keach Ksiva that's going and making Gvul b'Paltiel, going and writing one letter, B'Shas Ma'aseh remains a Keach Bulti Bal to make any letters, which now is a Paltiel making this letter. It itself didn't change it. Even B'Shas Ma'aseh, when it's making that Gvul, be a Cholte to make any other Gvuls. So it remains believable. So Bailey, say anything about Kelm Natsilos, they're going and making Biyah. But they themselves, with B'Shas Ma'aseh, are remaining Gvul. They only have Keach for Gvul. And therefore, since they're not Gvul Mamish, I could still say they're Davuk in their Makar. Their Inyan is to bring out the Keach and Seif of the Eibishter. And they're called the That's the first love. And then the Rebbe says, and this Inyan is by Yosef. The Yosef is all Kos. He's a Mishtana. I'll get the Then comes the Rebbe and says, and how could the Bereshina how could the Kalim go and make a Gvul? That's basically the question. Because the Mata, that the Keach Hayad could go make Gvul and make a specific letter, as long as it would be my Keach, and my Keach is Blik Gvul, so it would always be Blik Gvul. And even, so how does it actually make a Paltiel? I'm using a Davar Zar, a Yad, and that Yad doesn't go be Madbul made to come to Gvul. As long as, there's more bigger what's Pshat Koyach Gvul is non-Gvul, but there's more beer something well on this Inyan. But as long as it's my Koyach, and my Koyach is Gvul, and it's an Inyan in me that I can be non-Gvul myself, it's also me. So it's also going to be part of my blue Gvul of my Koyach. The only way for Tab and Poil is because if you have a Yat, which is separate. So if you need a separate thing, the Eibishter, nothing separate from him. Where's the separate Gvul that the Eibishter is going to use? And if it's a separate Gvul that the Eibishter is using, then it's called a Paltiel. It's not Lakos, it's not Davukin and Smoker. We go back to the same issue. What's Kelim Vatzel? If Kelim are Gvul making Gvul, then they are themselves Gvul. They have to be separate. They have to be like a Yad. But there's no Yad by the Eibishter. The Eibishter doesn't have any separate existence by him. And if it's separate, it's not him. And then we got a problem. We can't call it Lakos. What does the answer? Kol Yachol. What's Shak Kol Yachol? Shak Kol Yachol is, I could be Ein Seif, and remain Ein Seif, and do something very specific, and even though I do something very specific, the koyach in me that made that specific thing is still Ein Seif. It's still Bligvul. How could Bligvul remain Bligvul and then make a Bligvul? Doesn't make any sense. But the Eibishter is Yachol, inside the Eibishter's Kol Yachol is like true Ein Seif. There's no definition whatsoever. So you could be Bligvul, remain Bligvul, and do Gvul. And then the Rebbe says, well, then the Rebbe brings the Baal Shem Tov, then the Rebbe says, well, the Rebbe says the Erd. So now, what's going on here? What's the Rebbe says about Erd? If the Rebbe only said the first beer in Kalim, I would learn the Pashtos. I think you can learn the Pashtos. What's the first beer in Kalim? That the whole Inyan of the Gvul, of Ishtalshlos, of Alakos, is the Ein Seif. In Yona is, he's Davuk, both in the Keres, but he's Davuk. Yona is the Ein Seif of the Koyach Gvul of the Eibishter. And therefore there's no Gedida. Since in Yona is the Koyach Gvul of the Eibishter, B'mhusa is the Koyach Gvul of the Eibishter. Ad Lamata Mata. And therefore even Gel Latzos are really in Yona is the Gvul of the Koyach Ein Seif of Atzmus, of the Eibishter himself. And there's no Shina. Even though the Paltiel there's a very, very grub and mugbul to Koyach Gvul, but it's still Koyach Gvul. In Yona is still Koyach Gvul, and therefore it's only a Koyach Gvul and it's not Gvul Mamish. And that's all Derech the although it's not much the same. Derech the that even though the came down to Gvul, it's really Bosi, Gvul, even though Paltiel looks like Gvul, and it's doing Gvul, it's being in a Gvul place, it's Be'erech Gvul, Bosi is still Gvul, but I'll get to the point. But when the Rebbe brings the beer of Kol Yachol, why do we need Kol Yachol in the earth? This that there's a Nivroim Mugbal, it's not inside the earth. The earth is Pasha. It's not the Kalim. The Kalim are responsible for the Gvul of earth. It's not the Koyach Gvul. The earth is being pale through Koyach Gvul. So this that there's an existence here is beside the earth. This that it's Mugbal is only beside the Kalim. So the earth isn't being Gvul when it's making the Nivroim. The earth isn't actually becoming Gvul. It's not becoming Gvul, it's remaining Ein Seif HaPasha. You don't need the beer of Kol Yachol for the earth to be Mehava Derech HaKelim. So where's the Val Derech Zeh from the second beer in Kelim to earth? Why did they have to go down that track? Elam Kain, we say, and maybe you could medayik it in different lashonos. Maybe you could. The question is not on. They never asks in the Shaila. Who's talking about Arshalayla? Ich have a Shinoi. Bakilim Shalamayla. Mandili. And there's a Shinoi because it's Mugbo and it's making Gvul. They was asking on the Ur. Who spoke about the Ur? The Ur is not responsible for the Grubal Pile. LMK, we go like the shit of the Reches, the Shalt Rebbe, is Masber a little bit, that Gilei Ur Ein Seif, which is the Gilei of the Eibishter is Ein Seif. Part of its Ein Seif is that it has a Ur Gvul. Part of it, and the Eibishter is so Ein Seif, in his Ur, which is a Gilei, which is an attribute of him, which again, here it's a Chiddush, much bigger Chiddush in Kelim. Here we're calling it Gilei, calling it Ur. It's a Gilei, it's an expression of the Eibishter. And what's expressing the Eibishter? Ur Mudbul, Palanifla. But how is it Shayach? Because for the same reason, just like the Eibishter is Ein Seif. And Mela, he could express him, he's Miskala. And even in Mitzias, and he could even Matamata in Biyah, and even in Lacharat Tzimtzum. For the same reason, for the same Ein Seif, that Ein Seif, it's so Ein Seif, it could even be Niskala through Ur Mudbul. And then already you need a Varta Kol Yachol. That's already Shtikal Kol Yachol. But the Eibishter, which is Gvul, is Niskala through Gvul, besides his Ein Seif, that's already a Varta Kol Yachol. And then it's a whole. And if that's if that's what the Rebbe is trying to get to, a lot of things change. First of all, mata aditachas is a much better mata aditachas because the earth time will be slapshus. The gvul of Welt is b'siachas to the earth, not just to the kelim. So not just the earth is mugbul because of the kelim. So the air is really pasha, really ain't safe, and it's lamata mata, and it's lamata mata despite the fact that the kelim are being magbulit. It's really mostly still the same ain't safe. But it's not really in the makim of the gvul. It's not shaykh to the gvul. It's not the cause for the gvul. It doesn't have any gvul in it. It's not there. It's there without the kelim. Now, even though there's kelim, it's still there because it's pasha. If you say that the air mitzvah atma has air mugbul, then air is responsible for the and what are kelim doing? Kelim are taking the essence spheres of air and making them more frakidat, making them more gvuldik. To ask the kach that the earth, the tzir in the air comes more grad, that it can be mehava biyah. Our Welt and the essence spheres of Welt, the tzir of Welt, is not based on kelim. If it was on kelim, then azay. The Eibishter created the world through expressing himself and creating it. This that we're mugbal, this that we have essence spheres. It's not an expression of the Eibishter. It's an expression of the fact that the Eibishter could make something that's not him. The Eibishter could be milam on himself. So the gvul of Welt is not really, it's a lakos, because it's a yulay of the Eibishter's kayach, Helen, but it's not a hemshech of Eibishter. The tchunis of Welt, which is akbala, is not a hemshech of Eibishter. So, and Eretz Yisrael Rishon Mata in the teichen of the nivra mitzad, the gvul of the nivra. If we say that the Eretz have gvul, then you need to call yachal. That's what's alderach but like Caleb. Then the mata is in the teichen and the prat of the nivra mitzad the prat of the nivra. So the teichen of the nivra, and then our Welt is much more hilig of Welt. The gvul of Welt is not just mitzad the kol yachal the Eibishter to make something which is not nirgash, which is not gufa mitzad him, a millet, whatever. Now the gvul of Welt is an expression of the Eibishter, nothing gefint there, and there's a whole different teichen to. And that's, I think, why they never made Tushlavin, and maybe you could say that Yosef Atzadik is, Yosef Atzadik wasn't talking about Gosh of this Kol Yachal word, by the scholars of Chassidus, by the Baal Shem Tov, it's already more did about Achtenim, it's Mela reached a new Shlav, Gila Chassidus, Mela Baal Shem Tov lived even more Lamata, even without the Gvul of Mata. Because it's very interesting. There says the first word, Yosef, the second word, the Baal Shem Tov, and also by Balderach Zebaer, like the Dugmas of Baal Shem Tov, not the Dugmas Yosef. But it was back to Balderach Zebaer, like Caleb. There were only references to the Baal Shem Tov, which the Rebbe said after the second word in Caleb. Not the first word in Caleb, which the Rebbe said, which the Rebbe touched by Yosef. Ula Yishleim et B'diyach. The Rebbe is choosing the Baal Shem Tov, because the Rebbe is choosing the second beer, because we want real Islapshus. And that's Pshat Ke'erach, that the comes Ke'erach HaSchuchis. Why does it get to be Madgish that? Not because of the Islapshus of the Caleb. The came Ke'erach HaSchuchis. The changed, the is mugbal. And maybe that's Pshat, and why they brought this mushroom with Madgish Sprat. And it was I don't know if I was so clear and understood, but I think that's the way. I think that's Maamer. Whoever understood it, I hope he did. Anyways, crap.